Right, grab your coffee and buckle up because Sadiq Khan's at it again, and this time he's coming for your wallet with the subtlety of a brick through a window. While you were probably worrying about your energy bills or wondering if you can afford a decent sandwich anymore, our beloved London mayor has decided what the capital really needs is another stealth tax disguised as environmental policy. Because nothing says green revolution quite like financially crippling the very people who switch to electric vehicles, am I right? Here's what's happening: the congestion charge is jumping from £15 to £18 a day. That's a 20% hike that'll hit 140,000 drivers daily, and if you think that sounds expensive, wait until you hear about the cherry on top of this financial disaster cake. But before we dive into this bureaucratic money pit, let me ask you this: when was the last time you saw a politician voluntarily reduce a charge? I'll wait. Exactly. Once these fees go up, they have about as much chance of coming down as a lead balloon has of reaching orbit. Now, Conservative MP Louie French from Old Bexley and Sidcup has written what can only be described as a strongly worded letter to Khan, though frankly, at this point, writing letters to Sadiq Khan about reducing charges is like asking a vampire to go vegan. French has called this increase a disproportionate impact on working people, which in political speak translates to this is going to absolutely hammer ordinary families who are already struggling. But here's where it gets really spicy. Remember all those delivery drivers, tradespeople, and small business owners who did exactly what the government told them to do? You know, the ones who spent their hard-earned cash switching to electric vehicles because they were promised exemptions from the congestion charge? Well, surprise! That exemption is getting axed faster than a reality TV contestant on elimination night. Starting December 25th, electric vehicle drivers will be paying the full whack, which means Christmas is coming early for transport for London's bank account and arriving like a lump of coal for everyone else. The GMB union has called this decision unconscionable, and honestly, that's probably the politest way to describe what amounts to an economic bait-and switch that would make a dodgy car salesman blush. These drivers believed they were investing in the future, reducing emissions, doing their bit for the environment, and now they're facing thousands of pounds in annual charges they never budgeted for. It's like being told you've won a prize, only to discover the prize is a bill for the privilege of winning it. Let's talk numbers, because this isn't just about the congestion charge, oh no. This is a masterclass in death by 1,000 cuts, London style. We've got the £15 ULEZ charge still lurking around like an unwelcome party guest. Then there are the new Silvertown and Blackwall Tunnel fees of up to £10 per crossing. The Dartford Crossing is hiking its fees by 40% to £3.50 per crossing come September. Add all this up, and we're looking at daily driving bills that could exceed £40 for some unlucky souls. That's more than most people spend on groceries in a day, just for the privilege of moving around a city they already pay council tax to live in. French's letter pulls no punches, describing Khan's approach as a highway robbery, which honestly feels like an understatement at this point. This is more like highway grand larceny with a side order of municipal mugging. The MP points out that many people don't drive in central London for fun, they're tradespeople trying to earn a living, disabled individuals with limited transport options, elderly residents who can't manage public transport, parents with young children, or people rushing sick relatives to hospital. These aren't luxury journeys, they're necessities, and turning necessities into luxury-priced experiences is basically the government's way of saying, have you tried being richer? Now, here's a fun fact that'll make your morning coffee taste bitter. This is the second time Khan has hiked the congestion charge. Back in 2016, it cost £11.50 per day. Now it's hitting £18, which represents a 56% increase over less than a decade. That's not inflation, that's policy-driven price gouging with a green bow tied around it. Meanwhile, what exactly are South London residents getting for their money? According to French, Bexley motorists are paying more to City Hall than ever before while receiving precisely nothing in return. Transport for London has been cutting its contribution to road maintenance in Bexley while simultaneously ignoring residents' calls for improved bus routes. They've stopped the SL3 service at Bexley Village and repeatedly rejected pleas to extend the DLR and Elizabeth line into the borough. So essentially, they're charging people more for the privilege of having fewer transport options. It's like paying extra for a sandwich and getting less filling. It defies logic, but apparently, it's perfectly acceptable municipal policy. The consultation process concluded this week, with TfL supposedly reviewing feedback before implementing the higher fees on January 2, 2026. But let's be honest about what these consultations really are. They're the bureaucratic equivalent of asking someone if they'd like to be punched in the face or kicked in the shins. The outcome was predetermined. The consultation is just there to create the illusion of democracy while the steamroller of policy crushes anyone foolish enough to stand in its way. What makes this whole situation even more frustrating is the complete lack of joined-up thinking. On one hand, the government talks about supporting working families and small businesses. On the other hand, they're implementing policies that make it financially prohibitive for those same families and businesses to operate in the capital. It's like trying to promote tourism while simultaneously setting up toll booths every 100 yards and wondering why visitor numbers are dropping. The professional driving community is understandably furious, and who can blame them? These are people who invested significant money in electric vehicles based on policy promises that lasted about as long as a chocolate teapot in a heat wave. The GMB union statement about drivers facing financial ruin isn't hyperbole, it's a genuine concern for people whose livelihoods depend on being able to move around the city without paying what amounts to a daily luxury tax. French's assessment of Khan's legacy is particularly cutting. As mayor, there's not one road charge that you have not chosen to expand, hike, or impose against people's wishes. That's quite an achievement in a city where road charges already exist in more varieties than coffee at Starbucks. We've got congestion charges, ULEZ charges, tunnel charges, bridge charges, and probably charges we haven't even discovered yet. At this rate, they'll be charging people for looking at roads from their windows. The timing of these increases is particularly tone-deaf given the current economic climate. While families are struggling with the cost of living crisis, energy bills that resemble telephone numbers, and inflation that's eating into household budgets faster than a teenager raids a fridge, Khan's solution is to add more financial pressure. It's like treating a headache with a hammer. Technically it might stop you thinking about the headache, but the cure is significantly worse than the problem. What's especially galling is the environmental angle being used to justify these charges. Electric vehicle drivers who genuinely tried to do the right thing are being penalized, while the wealthy who can afford to pay these charges as pocket change continue driving whatever they like. This isn't environmental policy, it's regressive taxation dressed up as green politics. True environmental policy would involve improving public transport to the point where driving becomes unnecessary, not making driving so expensive that only the rich can afford it. The knock-on effects of these charges extend far beyond individual drivers. Small businesses that rely on deliveries will pass these costs on to consumers. Tradespeople will factor these charges into their quotes. Service providers will limit their operating areas to avoid the most expensive zones. The result is a two-tier system where central London becomes increasingly accessible only to those with deep pockets, while everyone else gets priced out of their own city. Looking ahead, drivers can expect 2024 to be the year of the steepest driving charge increases on record. The Dartford Crossing fee hike is just the beginning, with more increases likely to follow as councils and transport authorities realise they've found a politically acceptable way to extract more revenue from motorists. After all, who's going to argue against environmental protection, even when the policy does nothing meaningful for the environment? The reality is that these charges are here to stay and will likely increase further because they're too lucrative for authorities to abandon. They generate substantial revenue while appearing environmentally conscious, which is political gold. The fact that they disproportionately impact working families and small businesses is apparently an acceptable casualty in the war on carbon emissions. For drivers facing these increases, the options are limited: pay up, change routes, switch transport methods, or move out of London entirely. None of these options are particularly appealing, which is probably the point. This isn't really about reducing congestion or improving air quality, it's about generating revenue while appearing progressive, and it's working exactly as intended. Here's the thing that really gets me: while Khan and his team are busy congratulating themselves on their environmental credentials, they're simultaneously making London less accessible to the very people who keep the city running. The electricians, plumbers, delivery drivers, care workers, And small business owners who can't simply hop on the tube with their tools and equipment are the ones bearing the brunt of these charges. As we move forward into this brave new world of ever-increasing transport charges, remember that this is just the beginning. Once authorities discover they can extract money from motorists with minimal political backlash by wrapping it in environmental rhetoric, there's no limit to how creative they can get. Expect more charges, higher fees, and increasingly creative ways to separate you from your money, all in the name of saving the planet. The sad truth is that London's transport policy has become less about moving people efficiently and more about extracting maximum revenue while maintaining the appearance of environmental responsibility. Until voters start holding politicians accountable for these financial muggings disguised as policy, expect more of the same. That's all for today's dose of political reality from UK Daily Coffee. If this story has got your blood pressure up as much as your morning caffeine, smash that like button and let me know in the comments whether you think these charges are environmental policy or just another way to pick your pocket. Subscribe for more daily updates on how your elected officials are finding new and creative ways to make your life more expensive. Until tomorrow, keep your wallets close and your expectations of government competence even closer.